Right now, you're donating at least $30 per month free labors to OpenAI just by using ChatGPT. You're training their models, fixing their bugs, and signaling your intent, all for free. The exchange is designed to be hidden away so you never see it coming. Therefore, in this video, I have investigated and found these 6 specific ways that AI companies extract value from you, what you're actually worth, and honestly, what you can do about it. So you can keep using AI without handing over your digital soul. Here's the thing, nobody tells you, you aren't just a free user. You're an unpaid labor feeding AI with your most valuable asset, your understanding of the world and your deepest desires. But it gets worse. You don't just work for them, you also tell them exactly what they can sell you. Your data isn't only used by the AI companies themselves, but also goes to retailers who pay for it. Either way, you're the product twice over. Here's a quick note. I'm using ChatGPT as my main example throughout, but this applies to nearly all generative AI chatbots like Claude, Gemini, Copilot, you name it. Let's start with something that OpenAI did in public, and nearly nobody noticed. In their technical documentation, they explicitly stated, we may use content submitted to ChatGPT to improve model performance. For example, we may use the user's prompts, the prompt responses, and other content such as images and files. This is not just an afterthought, but one of the core training methods. This is the first way that you create value. Training fodder. Now, every question you ask teaches AI what humans want to know as a core training method. Every question you ask becomes curriculum. Your images and personal files are the key ingredients to improving an AI model. When you ask ChatGPT to negotiate a raise or generate a Simpson-style image based on your pick as your wife's birthday gift, or how to write a performance review for someone that you are about to put on a pip, you aren't just getting an answer. You're teaching the model what good questions look like and what matters to humans. This is the kind of data with enormous value because it's high signal. It's what you choose to ask, which reveals what you care about. I bet you've probably seen those little thumbs up and thumbs down buttons on ChatGPT. Most people think they're just feedback, a way for ChatGPT to know if you like the responses. When you click that thumbs up or thumbs down, you're doing something called RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback. It's still one of the key techniques that made ChatGPT or any other chatbots conversational. In spring 2025, one of the OpenAI updates announcement went wrong. OpenAI revealed that thumbs up and thumbs down ratings serve as an additional reward signal for actual model training. This isn't just for product improvement, it's directly shaping how AI thinks and changes the model itself. Even more importantly, if you give thumbs up or thumbs down feedback, that entire conversation you just had with ChatGPT will also be used for the training, even if you already opt out of the general training. This revelation surprised many users because most people assumed that feedback buttons were simply for bug reporting or user satisfaction surveys, not direct model training on their specific conversations. And because of human feedback, because of what you are doing when you clicked the button, you're performing the same tasks that these companies pay professional data labelers between $6 to $60 an hour to do. Sometimes AI doesn't just ask for a thumbs up or thumbs down. Sometimes it shows you 2 responses and asks, which one is better? It isn't a courtesy, of course. It's yet another form of data collection. Those preferences comparisons, that exact format, is used for both traditional RLHF and newer method like DPO, direct performance optimization. For example, Meta used DPO to train Llama 3. Now let's bring it back. Every time you choose response A over response B, you're encoding your judgment into model's decision-making process. Here's another one, edge case discovery. AI companies have a dedicated red team, like hiring a professional burglar to test your home security systems once completed. They'll try every window, every lock, and every weak point, not to steal from you, but to find vulnerabilities before a real crime does. Now, AI companies use the red teams to find where their models break, finding failure modes, and test the boundaries. This is very costly. It's estimated that AI companies spent about $1.5 billion on red teaming in 2025, and the market is likely to triple in 4 years' time. Each red team specialist is paid between $40 to $150 per hour to just systematically test for vulnerabilities. But this is far from enough, because here's one crucial thing that formal testing misses and can never match: the unpredictable nature of failures that emerge only when millions of real users, explore the system in unexpected ways. A research from Stanford and Google shows that crowdsourced user reports discover systematic AI failure that formal systematic testing completely overlooked. Quote here, by including a more diverse set of users, this crowd auditing method can also detect and describe failures that developers had not considered due to their own blind spots and biases. Why is that? Because formal testing suite hypothesize failure in advance based on past experience, but millions of you, discover unique and new bugs, issues, failures by accident simply by trying something creative, by combining constraints in a way that developers will never imagine. For instance, requests combining professional tone with creative constraints, like write a resignation letter in Shakespearean style. Every weird prompt you try, every time you push the boundaries, every creative edge case, you're collectively mapping failure modes that would cost thousands to discover through formal testing alone. That's individual testing labor, provided for free. Now let's talk about something more valuable than behavior. Behavior data is what you did, but intent data is what you want to do. When you ask ChatGPT, how do I ask for a promotion? That's an intent. You're broadcasting a desire, a problem, an unmet need. When you search best laptop for remote work under $1,500, you aren't just describing behavior. You're saying, I want to buy something, I have a budget, and I have specific needs. And that's your broadcasting, your purchase intent, which is the consumer desire at its purest form. On the open web, companies have to follow you around with cookies, trackers, just to estimate what you're trying to do, stitching together pages visits, link clicks, and time on sites to infer intent from your activity. However, it's the next level with AI. This kind of telling someone what you desire, the type of information, is extraordinarily valuable to advertisers, recruiters, finance advice companies, and anyone willing to pay for knowing what you want. Meta makes about between $60 to $80 per year from each US user just from behavioral data. The intent data market is massive and still growing. This market was valued at $26 billion in 2025. More specifically, there are 39% of B2B businesses spend more than half of their marketing budget on intent data alone. And there are 67% of B2B respondents use intent data specifically for digital advertising. With AI, you get the purest intent that no company could ever dream of before 2022. So the AI companies are in the best position to command premium prices in the data market for exceeding the value of passive behavioral tracking. Now, last one, correction labor. Every time you rephrase a failed query, point out a hallucination, or say, no, I meant something different, you're doing quality assurance. Professional data annotation for complex correction costs between 0.06 to over $1 per sentence, depending on the complexity, of course. You do it for the privilege of using AI for a fraction of what the AI companies invested in the models. Especially if you are an inexperienced professional in the field, your correction is much more valuable than a random contractor's correction because you have the context. You know what you actually wanted. You can articulate exactly why the response failed. Professional RLHF annotation and correction, especially if you're in STEM, law, finance, and medicine, you typically would receive between $20 to $60 per hour. In my detailed article, I've listed the latest job specs for a professional to correct answers for an AI company, so feel free to check it out. Let's make everything we just said even more concrete on a dollar sign. Most of you are a director level or even above professionals. You're aged between 30s to 50s, you're using potentially ChatGPT or any similar chatbot, maybe 30 minutes a day or more at work. You use it to draft emails, prepare for difficult conversations, research industry trend, or occasionally ask for career advice. Let's put actual numbers on this. In a typical month, you might submit around 200 prompts. That's about 6 prompts per day. That sounds about right. And you give 5-ish thumbs up or thumbs down ratings per month. Choose between responses 5 times. You correct or rephrase 30 failed queries. For example, that's not what I said, or no, you got it wrong. You also potentially expressed intent 10 times. You can find the source of these estimations in my full article. The dollar value of your contributions would be roughly between $30 to $70 a month. But here's the thing, this is not even the point. That's likely just pockets exchanged to someone at your level. But before we continue, let's put things in perspective. Think about 700 million weekly ChatGPT users. Even at the low end, that's about 21 billion in monthly labor value, provided for free. Now, a fair disclaimer, the $17 is fuzzy math. I didn't take into account of that. First, your individual thumbs up is worth almost nothing. Only is valuable after you combine with millions of the others. And second, the AI companies also took the risk. They burned billions before you even showed up. So O is probably a strong word. Third, an individual annotation isn't the same as a market rate doing this full-time types of annotators. But all things considered, here's what I think matters so much more than just dollar amount and should actually give you a pause. Whether you made an informed choice about this exchange. Think about what you ask AI in a typical week. It may be, how do I handle a direct report who's underperforming? What's a reasonable salary range for a VP of something in Washington? Or help me prepare talking points for pushing back on my CEO's strategy. These are sensitive professional intelligence, career anxieties, salary expectations, or strategic disagreements with your own leadership. The kind of vulnerabilities that you wouldn't want to share with your colleagues or everyone else on the internet. But now it's sitting on a server somewhere, potentially used for training and viewed by humans. Now, here's the second part that should also bother you. You understand that free usually means that you are the product. Every free, even a paid user of those AI tools is a negotiation where only one party shows up. The terms were written in legalese designed to be skipped, dense, and feel like intentionally unreadable. Here's a parallel to your day job. If your employer asks you to work nights and weekends for exposure and learning opportunities, you have the chance to push back because at least you're notified. You negotiate. You might even walk. But this is exactly the arrangement you have with every chatbot you use. The difference is that they make the exchange invisible. The question isn't whether to revolt, it's whether, now that you know this, anything changes. And then here's what happens next. Every time you press a want, a new job, a purchase decision, a problem you need to solve, that's a signal. You become more tangible with every conversation, to advertisers, to recruiters, to anyone willing to pay for access to people who've expressed specific needs. This is exactly why ChatGPT rolled out ad shopping and the ad tiers membership in the span of the last several months. The question isn't whether $70 a month matters to you anymore. It's whether you made an informed choice to share this level of professional and personal detail, or whether that choice was made for you, buried in terms of service that you never read. Here's the thing, not all AI companies handle this the same way, and if privacy matters to you, these differences also matter. Most of the big AI chatbots default to using your conversation for training. You can opt out, yes, but you have to hunt for the setting. Some European providers recommend opting in for training on chat data, and ironically, China is moving forward rules that require explicit consent even before the chat logs can be used to improve models. It's likely that you're using the big names like ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, Meta, or Claude. You should assume that your chats are training data unless you have explicitly switched it off. So I'm going to give you my honest take on how the major players compare. And yes, I might have a recommendation. Anthropic, the company behind Claude, they stood out as one of the few major chatbots that did not use conversations for training by default. However, as of the late 2025, here's the updates to consumer terms and privacy policy. They pretty much say your conversations are now used for training unless you explicitly opt out. New users actually get to choose during sign-up whether to allow training to opt in or opt out, which is still the most transparent among all the big names. If you opt in though, your data, however, will be retained for up to 5 years. So choice has real consequences. Next, OpenAI. OpenAI is more opaque. Of course, they didn't explicitly ask you whether you like to opt out of data training during your sign-up process. It also uses your conversation for training by default. You have to find the setting and turn it off yourself. And here's the concerning part. If you give thumbs up or thumbs down feedback, like what we have mentioned, your entire conversation may now be used for training, even if you opt out of general training. The setting opt out exists, but you just have to know where to look. Google's Gemini uses your data when Gemini app's activity is on, which is default again. And what is worse, in my opinion, sometimes they will even have human reviewers to read your conversations. You can turn it off, of course, but the default assumes consent, and data from the previous chats can be kept for up to 3 years. Now I have put the exact opt-out instructions for each big chatbot in the video description. If you want to change your settings after watching this, everything you need is there. While most people don't care, I'm guessing you will. I share this with you, not to ask you to revolt or to scare you. I'm not here to tell you to delete your account or join some kind of movement. My mission is actually simpler. So here's my question for you. Now that you know this, what changes? I see 3 possible responses here. First, you can always choose to do nothing. You've decided that the trade is fair. Free access to powerful tools in exchange for your labor and data. And that's a legitimate choice, as long as it's an informed one. Second, you can choose to become more selective. You can start treating your AI interactions differently. Maybe you use the opt-out setting. Maybe you are more thoughtful about what you share, especially career-sensitive or personal information. Maybe you keep a separate account for queries that you rather not have associate with your identity. Now, finally, you start asking which company at least acknowledged this exchange honestly. Opt-in versus opt-out isn't just a technical detail. It reflects whether a company thinks your informed consent actually matters. Keep using AI if you already are and that you found it valuable for you. I use them too. We should, though, talk about how to estimate the economic value of your AI to you. Well, that's probably a different video. But at the minimum, now you understand what you're actually trading away. What you do with this information is up to you. All my research and reference data and the opt-out instructions that you can find in the article linked in the description or in the description on its own. If you found this useful, do share the video with someone you know that probably doesn't know this yet and would be valuable for them. Subscribe and let me know in the comments which AI company that you think is the most transparent about this stuff. I'm curious what you think. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.